You know what I'm talking about. Also Texas, baby. Yeah. Can't be stopped. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Sound.
I cannot believe you really got me wild.
Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to come speak with me. Like, this is crazy. This is great.
No, of course. I mean, thank you. I'm excited.
Yeah,
I'm super excited.
So I don't want to just jump right into things. I like to, get a feel for the vibes, get to know you on a personal level. It's 2 p.m. for me, and I believe it's 1 p.m. for you over there.
Yeah.
Austin, Texas, right?
Austin, Texas,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
How was your morning? Is there a morning routine you follow? Gym?
Usually it's gym.
Mm-hmm.
I tweaked my back yesterday evening, so I took this morning off.
Okay.
But I'm all right. But
Yeah.
just woke up, a little bit of reading.
Okay.
I've been reading this book. It's kind of written by this therapist that kind of helps you process traumas and
what's the title and who's the author?
The author. Hold on, let me just grab it real quick.
All right, yeah, do you think?
Yeah, so I'm on her second book. First book is called Try Softer by Andy Colbert.
Oh, okay.
I'm writing this one right. There we go.
Yeah, there we go.
And then the second one is Strong Like Water, which is her follow-up.
That's actually really dope.
Yo, it's man, I'm a little past halfway on the second one.
Now, I guess my first question to you, since you're reading books about mental health, I'm assuming, if you're comfortable with speaking about it, how's your mental health right now? Because I've known the past couple of years, especially with our generation, there has been a resurgence of people speaking up about, their mental health and, with the world being as crazy as it is right now with, inflation and just everything is just, people are passing away like unexpectedly. So it's like that really does affect, a lot of our mental health. So if you're okay with it, if you want.
Yeah, no, definitely. I would say I'm in a transitional period. I think last year, honestly, like the last couple years, as I'm sure for most people, were just like really, really tough. And I had realized I was not taking care of my mental health at all, really. Just kind of being in that tunnel vision, grind mode. I got to make it, which is, a big part of the project. But realizing I was fully burnt out, but I wouldn't allow myself rest because I'm not where I want to be and I'm trying to succeed. And, when you're young, this is the time you're supposed to work and they say, don't sleep because the minute you sleep, someone else is up working, that whole thing. But I ended up coming home. I was out in LA for a little while. And as soon as I got home and, pace was a little bit slower, I'm with my family, so some of my older friends, I was like, oh, shoot, yo, like, actually, I need this. Like, I really do need to slow down. Now, it's a process because that's not my default mode, found myself exhausted, found myself just like, I want to do more, but I can't. Like, I'm waking up and I'm just like, and then trying to overcome the guilt in that, because it's such a cycle of like, I'm supposed to be working, but I don't have the energy to work right now. And now I feel bad about not having the energy to work, which just is exhausting in itself.
Yeah. And it almost turns into like the cycle almost.
Exactly.
Yeah.
100%.
So that's very interesting that you say that, because leading into the music, I've listened to both projects, Spectrum and Petals, which thank you for letting me listen to the album early, by the way. It's
of course.
It's amazing. Like you really did your damn thing with it, and like and I don't say that lightly, and as a music lover, I have really strong opinions about music. You've probably seen my videos like on TikTok, so I don't say that lightly. And with the music that we've been getting lately, I'm not gonna lie, I haven't been impressed. And it's not by fault of the artist, it's by fault of the industry, because I felt like on the surface level of things, you're always getting like these half-ass projects, and all the good music, like you have to really like dig deep and put in the work to find it, And I'm glad you mentioned that, because lyrically, I'm pretty sure it's one of the questions, but lyrically, you always talk about, grind, work and getting to a certain spot. How is your grind like mindset affected you positively, and how has it affected you negatively?
Yeah, so I think even like the narrative of the album kind of tells that. So I mean, that mindset is what got me early success, and it's got me up until this point. Being able to produce a couple records for Ariana Grande, like that was amazing.
I actually
Working with
wrote that
Earth
down in my
Game.
notes. And I'm not gonna lie, I was just like, I do this thing where whenever I have conversations with people, I like to know who I'm talking to. So I'm not
Yeah,
gonna
for
lie,
sure.
I did a little research.
Hey,
And bro, your resume. And how old are you?
27.
27. Bro, your resume is stacked. We're gonna get you finish answering the question, but we're gonna get into it's stacked. But continue.
Thank you. Well, yeah, I would say that mindset is what got me those things. You know what I'm saying? And eventually signing to No ID and be able to move around the music industry and meet so many artists and producers I grew up listening to, I'm a fan of, and they're impressed by my work. Like, there is obviously there is good in working hard, and I think the fruits of that were they were good for me.
Yeah.
But I think within that, you have to learn how to work hard holistically. And, and if you're working hard, you need to rest also intentionally.
Yeah, that has
And I
to be
think I
that
found
balance.
exactly. So I think the negative side was it made me devalue rest and downtime. Because, LA, like I'm a small fish in an ocean. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, how can I even justify resting when I'm nowhere near? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I'll rest when I get to the top, right? And it's been a period where, like now that I'm in now where I'm learning, like, okay, what does it mean to rest, and how do I rest without guilt and shame? Because if I'm resting physically, but my mind is still like, but you're not, like you're not
Yeah.
fully leaning into it. And I kind of ran into that initially over the pandemic because I remember like, obviously everything shut down, right? I'm like,
Right.
okay, this is the time to like rest and slow down.
Yeah, but your
And
mind is
then
still
my mind, but then I remember it was like TikTok, the internet were like, yo, if you don't come out of the pandemic and you haven't read 20 books and developed 7 skills, I'm like you wasted this time because we'll never have this time back again. And I'm like, oh shoot, okay. I got to work even harder now, and that's when I first started that journey of like, maybe I don't, maybe I do need to just sit down for a little bit. And, it's still something that I'm learning how to do. But it's a good lesson. It's a good journey for sure.
And it really shows on this new project, especially with songs like All You Need, featuring the beautiful Snow Allegra.
Yeah.
And so it listening to tracks like, All You Need, and that last track with this artist, Feifei. Fifi. My fault. What's that song called again?
Petals.
Petals, yes. Okay, there you go.
Yep.
So when I hear those songs, it really shows through those songs, because when I hear those songs, I feel like you are in your peak form. Anime fans like to say, oh, like, he's at his peak, he's in his final form. You know what I'm saying? And so like, I'm actually glad you're going through this transitional period and learning how to take that rest, because it felt like you took your rest, you charged up, and you put your whole heart into this project,
Absolutely.
and it shows throughout the whole project, but in songs like All You Need and Petals, it definitely shows. So that's why I just want to give you your props for actually taking the time to self-reflect and realizing like, okay, like I understand I need to get to this point, but right now this is what I need, so I'm excited for, specifically those two tracks and Something in the Pavement. Those tracks are like, I'm really excited for people to listen to those. But to just get right into things, like, tell us your name, how old are you, where you're from, your nationality, ethnicity, the little small things.
Yeah, so my name is Malik Baptiste. 27, from Austin, Texas.
Born and
I'm
raised?
Born and raised.
Okay.
Yep. I'm African American.
Nice.
Um, yeah, we here,
Yeah, we
and I'm
just
an
here.
artist.
Just being black, beautiful, and thriving,
Got
just
to.
here. And so with people who don't know you for
Yeah.
whatever setting you are in, because me personally, I struggle with social anxiety. So it's very hard for me to navigate in, whatever crowd. So for people who don't know you, how do you present yourself? Is it a struggle to present yourself? And more importantly, is it easy for you to present yourself? And if it is, what do you tell people? Do you just come out the gate and say, oh, I make music, I do this? Or do you just like to start off small and then build up from there?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's always a case by case basis, but I remember when I first started to move around the industry, whatever, one thing I would tell myself is like whenever I'm in like a social situation like that, I would say, if I wake up tomorrow and I don't reach out to this person or say something or speak up, if I will have regret, I need to go say something.
Mm,
So a lot of times I do feel that social anxiety, but I, I'd rather like be awkward and nervous than like wake up the next day and be like, damn, like I I wish I at least tried, you
fair,
know?
fair.
But yeah, it's definitely not always easy for me. I even struggle trying to understand if I'm an introvert or an extrovert,
Mm,
because I love attention when I want attention, and then when I'm with my, and then it's just like, don't see me, don't look at
yeah,
me, don't perceive me. I just want to be in my own space. And a lot of times it just depends on the environment where I'm at, personally, and my mental health, and so. But yeah, I would say I definitely have to push myself a little bit, when it's new people or new environments,
okay.
especially something that's like so intimidating like that, where it's, man, everyone in this room, they're more successful than me.
Mm,
Maybe they're more talented than me. Or like, who am I to like
right.
make myself, the focal point? But to a
Now,
certain extent, you kind of have to. Yeah.
yeah, and it's really interesting that you say that, because we live in a time period where a lot of young people are moving so fast and gaining success so fast. So other people who are around the same age start to compare themselves. So when I
Yeah.
hear you say like, "Oh, like these people are more successful than me," how how do you kind of like level yourself to the point where you don't compare yourself? Because I know once you compare yourself, it's just the uphill battle from there, and it's not healthy for anybody. So how do you
Yeah.
navigate through that?
That's a big struggle for me, honestly. Because I'm just a naturally very competitive person,
Mm,
and competition lives in comparison. You know what
fair.
I'm saying? And a lot of it is studying. Sometimes it's healthy. We're like, oh, okay, they did this. Let me learn from that. Let me pull that. Okay, they did this. Let me pull that into my system. And other times it's literally just, damn, they're better than me or they're further than me, and then it just becomes this self-deprecating thing. So for me, it's like I said, it's a struggle. A lot of times it's focusing and knowing that what is for me is for me. Every path is different. And then as I learn about other artists who, like, maybe they got their big break later or they failed this many times, because we just see the dream version of people's careers, like we don't see all the failures
Right.
until they make it. And then it's like, dang, everything just worked out for them.
Yeah.
Why isn't it happening for me? But as I learn about more artist journeys, it gives me more validation too, of like, oh, okay, yeah, everyone has, for the most part, has like
Yeah.
struggles for a while, and then they have their moment, then they struggle a little bit more, they have another moment, and then it's just like
Yeah.
understanding that life isn't like a Disney movie, you know.
Yeah. So no, that was really good because I used to be in choir in high school from junior to senior year, and my mentor, his name is Mr. Brown, and he had this quote every year before we go into competition. He was just like, "I love you guys. You guys work so hard, but the prep talk is the one thing that stuck with me that he said. He says the most powerful thing you could do is accept that there will always be somebody better than you at something." And so my I'm telling you, like, being 16 years old, hearing that, like, the stubbornness in me was just like, but if I have the potential to do it, there's no way they could be better than me. Like, you know what I'm saying? So it was a really hard pill to swallow. So when I heard that, you know, and even going into competition, hearing the other schools like sing, we were just like, oh my, like they were doing some next level. And then it was so crazy because at the end of the evening, we found out we won first place in every category. So that day I came back home learning this huge lesson, because here we are thinking we suck, and then we come out on top. So it's really all about, you know, just not just your mental state, but like how you perceive things, because how you view things can change how you feel, and how you feel could ultimately you know, change the results of what you do and your future almost. But I guess Absolutely. To like actually move on to the next question, how long did it take for you to find your signature sound, and more importantly, how long did it take for you to accept that it sounded that way?
That's a really interesting question. So I think for me, it's always evolving. So I don't know if there was ever a moment where I was like, and I found my sound. You know what I'm saying? And I noticed other people recognized it before I did.
Oh,
you know what I'm saying?
Okay.
And I thought that was really interesting, because I might just be too close to my art to know all the things that like other people feel like stand out, because I might be spending 30 minutes on this line or this synth sound or something, and they're like, yo, the drums, like that's the thing that I enjoy. And that's actually one of the things that I like people always pull out of my music, or like my drums have like a certain tone and texture, which I definitely do pride myself on. But yeah, it's like I said, it's always evolving. I have another project I've been working on, and it sounds completely different from this project. And this project to me at least sounds completely different from Spectrum. So it's yeah. But I'll say with the accepting part, I think I'm able to um pinpoint that a little bit better when it comes to my like writing and vocal delivery, because that's so intimate, like one to one. Like I listen to old music and I'm like, oh, I'm doing this thing with my voice, or I'm saying this thing, or I'm singing like this.
And people don't realize how important delivery is in music, which is insane, because there's a whole video essay of somebody talking about Kendrick Lamar's tone and how he delivers certain lines, and how he's able to animate his voice in different ways. And if you listen to Black of the Berry, like it's all aggression and just like punching you in your face. But then you hear other songs like Levitate, it's that same aggression but a completely different tone, so it's delivery is extremely important.
No, he's definitely someone that I study a lot, because I had realized for a long time I was taking my vocal delivery like too seriously in a strange way, where I was like, I need to be perceived like this, so I have to only be like this, you know what I'm saying? And then it became I want to be as like honest as possible, so I'm only gonna rap in my talking voice. But I'm like, but I don't even talk like that all the time. Like I'm goofy, like, I'll do weird voices, and sometimes I'm up, sometimes I'm low. And looking at someone like Kendrick, who lets that shine through in his delivery, where sometimes it's super nasally, sometimes it's pitch, sometimes it's like he sounds like he's crying, sometimes he's screaming. It's just like, oh, okay, I can do all of these things. So even when I went into this project, I re-taught myself how to rap. And that really became like me giving myself more vocal freedom to like scream if I need to, speak in a lower, tone, push my voice, be
just
quiet.
Let it out, but in an authentic way, I guess you can say.
Yeah, and just not being afraid, because I think that the biggest thing was insecurity. It was just like, I know my voice kind of sounds good in this place, and that's my protection, of like people will like this, or people perceive me like this. if I was, as long as I keep this thing. And then I was like, dang, but I'm not really that thing though. Like
Yeah.
I'm weird. So let me
Yeah.
just so let me be weird.
No, that's great.
And it was so freeing.
That's great. So, you've mentioned Spectrums before, which is also a great project.
Thank
My
you.
favorite songs off of there is Red, Orange, and Violet. Those are my three favorite songs
Mm,
off those projects.
thank you.
So, with that being said, how has that project, well, comparing that project to Petals, your new project, how
Yeah.
has your music evolved?
Yeah. So I think one thing that I always push myself to do and to be is vulnerable in my art. I think Spectrum was vulnerable in the idea of me expressing um a range of emotion that I was not comfortable sharing. Like Red was like one of the first times I'd ever written a song, like an angry song. You know what I'm
Mm,
saying? And that was like freeing for me. You know what I'm saying?
right.
Because I'm just like I'm someone who's not comfortable showing anger externally. And I realized I needed to like, all right, I need to do something with this. You
Yeah.
know, I obviously can't just bottle this up. So a big part of that project was kind of abstractly expressing my range of emotion. And
Hence
then
the spectrum, and each
exactly.
color being a different. See,
Yep.
this is why you're the goat, bro. Like, like honestly, and obviously, from one artist to another, I caught up on that.
Yeah.
And so I was just like, oh man, this is low key genius. Like it's, and then one thing about Spectrum too is the way that each song is different, but you managed to make one song flow into the next, which I
Mm,
thought was extremely impressive. I don't know if it
thank
was
you.
lyrically or sonically with the music, but I just felt like from, one song to another, it just felt like I was watching a movie with like a beginning and middle and end, and it was the most
Thank
beautiful
you.
thing ever. But yeah, and so with the Petals project, I also felt the same
Hmm.
because you listen to like Starbirth, Dotted Line, and even songs like Every Night. That's very uplifting, inspiring, and almost gospel, as you can say. And then you get
Yep.
to the middle, sort of like I'm okay, something in the pavement. That's more of like the grittiness, sort of like not too dark, but like leaning towards that way. And then when we get
Yeah.
towards the end, it sort of like mellows out. So
Yeah.
I guess like to like steer off a little bit. Another question I have for you, was that intentional to have like a flow, beginning, middle, and end to your new project?
100%. And it was something that came really last minute. So
Mm.
Starbirth used to be the name of the project.
Oh wow.
Um, yeah, and there was pretty much like almost a completely new track list. The only songs that were still on there, on the other version was Dotted Line, All You Need to Know, and then Starbirth, but it was a completely different song,
Oh wow,
right?
that's crazy.
Yeah, so and then basically Starbirth was, the first iteration of the project, but it was me trying to, it was the story of me leaving home, going to LA, and then becoming a star,
Yeah.
right? And that was the narrative, and it kind of ends on that note. But then life kept happening, and I
Mm.
kept having struggles, and I kept going through things, and I'd realized that that story wasn't true anymore. And if I were to put it out in that form, I would be lying and also
Oof.
trying to protect how people perceive me
Mm.
because I had left home, I'd had, some successes, and then people saw me as these successes. You know what I'm saying? So I remember like visiting home and just running into people and like, oh, like you're Malik, man, I love your work, just like really overly respectful, and I'm kind of like thrown off by it.
Yeah.
And then at a certain point, I was like, I don't want to disappoint those people.
Mm.
Like I can't struggle now. You know what I'm saying? Like you already think
Yeah.
I'm whatever, and that was really confining for me. So I want to say So I turned in the whole project to the label, everything, Starbirth at the time. And then I just kept making music. And last minute, I changed the whole project, changed the title, everything. And I was like, oh man, they're gonna be so frustrated with me because I'm just gonna wake up one day and change we've already started rolling out music at that point.
So when you turned in the original project, what was the time period of you turning? Was it weeks? Was it months?
It was, so I turned in the whole project. I'm gonna say like March or April, something like that. We had put out All You Need to Know already with Snow. Finish up the project. And, oh shoot, it might have been earlier than that. And then I want to say 2-3 months ago, 2 months ago at this point, I changed the whole project. And
Wow. That's I'm sorry, I'm mind blown by that. Because do you think that decision came from a place of being a perfectionist in a way? Because like you said before, you were trying to protect, that stigma of you being perfect, and you don't want the album to be alive, which I wholeheartedly respect, by the way, because like I said, this album is completely honest. And there's sort of like an irony of me saying that, because now you're telling me the original version wasn't honest, so the fact that you took the steps to make sure that you're presenting yourself in the most authentic way possible is just amazing. But on the flip side, do you think there was like this undertone of being like a perfectionist when making that decision?
There could be a piece of that. I think mainly it was, I want to put out music that I'm excited to put out, and when I first did Starbirth, it was true for me at that time. But I'd realized I'm only through half the movie of this album. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Like, so I need to like inject it with the rest of the story.
Fair.
And I had realized some of the music that I had, I was like, this is good music and it deserves to be heard, but it's not something I'm gonna be like, yo, you gotta hear this. Like, this is, you know what I'm saying? And I was making stuff where I was like, yo, you gotta hear this. And I'd realized it was missing the complete sobering vulnerability. And just like releasing and letting go the image and the insecurities and all these things. Because when I went into Starbirth, it started as an exercise of me learning how to make music that would function for a wider audience.
Okay.
I felt like Spectrum was very insular and it was very like for me, and I just happened to put it out.
Right.
So Starbirth was, okay, well, I have my album, my debut album that will come out later. What's the bridge to me getting the audience that I want? So when my debut album comes out, it's, it has the impact that I want. So within that, I'm like studying songwriting and song structure, commercial rap, and trying to figure out like, okay, how can I pull this into my world? And it was very function based. It was very like, I'm coming at it like a scientist and not like an artist. And I think it was good for the exercise. But then it kind of allowed for this last evolution to take place and things to come full circle, where it's like, after I've put myself through this training, now I can just express myself and let those lessons kind of bleed through naturally and not try to force it so much.
There we go. Such a beautiful thing. Next question. For the people who are discovering your music for the first time, explain what this new album Petals is about.
Petals is about learning how to chase your dreams in a way that is good for you. And what happens when things don't meet your expectations. I had to learn to let a lot of things go. And that's the concept of Petals. It's like, it starts with car pedals, foot to the gas. I'm trying to make it. I'm burning myself out, burning this fuel, which can be good. But then what happens when you have no gas left? Like, are you going to,
Yeah.
are you gonna, are you gonna rest? Are you gonna pull over, or are you gonna
Yeah.
try to, you know what I'm
You could
saying?
pull over, get some gas, or you could just let your car break down.
Right, right. So then it goes into Flower Petals, which kind of plays off the she loves me not, but it's more I love me not. And I'd
Mm.
realize like, oh yo, I don't know how to love myself. That's why I'm doing this. That's why I need to be successful and a star and have this certain image, is because I'm trying to get that love from somewhere because I don't know fully how to give it to myself. So it's okay, are you willing to let go this perception? Are you willing to let go that this may not happen how you want it to happen or in the time that you want it to happen? And I was like, dang, I don't have a choice. Like, I think I need to do this. Like, I need to let these things go.
So
Um,
that's actually such a powerful thing too, because to piggyback off of what we talked about in the beginning, how you said you had to take a break, and when you came back home, you learned a lot about learning how to take a break from the grind. So within that journey, did you learn how to love yourself when coming back home, or was it where in that journey did you come to love yourself, or have you always loved yourself, or you realize you started that you were on the path of not loving yourself?
I've had a very conditional love of myself.
Mm.
Um, where when I'm doing good and I'm happy and I feel good and good things are happening in my life and I feel like I feel talented, I'll allow that to myself. So I mean, I would say I'm in progress, you know.
Okay.
I mean that's why I'm.
Yeah, you see, just the
Yeah,
healthy steps on learning to love ourselves, and just moving on with life, but not moving on in life just as like a blank canvas. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
So once you learn to love yourself, you could actually start painting the canvas however you want,
yeah.
and that's such a powerful thing.
And that's the best
But
art.
yeah,
The
that
best
is
art
true.
is just,
That is true.
yeah.
But give me 1 second. I didn't realize we've been talking this long already. So the thing is about to end. So what I'm
Okay,
gonna do, I'm gonna try to extend it real quick.
okay.
Let's see. I will edit all of that part out. Thank God we know how to use editing softwares.
Oh, facts.
But where were we again? We were talking about loving ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, yep,
Okay.
yep.
Cool. Now with I can only imagine how much of a process that is too, because I know a lot of people go through insecurities and stuff like that. And again, you could choose to speak about this if you want to, because I know it's personal. Do you have any personal insecurities that you go through? It could be personal, it could be music related, or so. How do you deal with your own insecurities, if you have any?
Yeah. No, absolutely. No, man, I'm just perfect. Like,
Yeah.
but no, I mean, I think I go through this like dichotomy of like feeling like, yo, I'm a superhero. Like I can do anything. And
Mm,
at my highest, but at my lowest, feeling like, yeah, I'm not good enough, you know? Um, and realizing a lot of that has stemmed from my childhood and how I grew up. And like, growing up in a predominantly white area, it's like I'm
ooh,
always the odd one out. And that gives you that's a lot of pressure to put on a black kid, especially from parents who didn't grow up like that. So they're not really aware that I'm gonna have different struggles than they had growing up.
mm,
So I had this pressure, like I have to represent black people and I have to fulfill all the good things that white people feel about black people, or the stereotypes, but then not fall
right,
into these things. And also I'm
yeah,
just a kid who's just wants to be a kid.
right,
um and then within that, like, I want to be an artist, I want to be a creator, and I feel like people don't understand my pathway or how I express myself. I don't understand, as a
yeah,
child, how to like understand what I'm going through, or you can put words to it. It's just this feeling of like I just don't feel good, you know?
yeah. Almost as if like you feel like you don't belong in a certain place.
100%.
Yeah, And it's
100%.
crazy you say that, because I feel like a lot of us black kids go through that, because I was born in New York, but I was raised in, Jersey my entire life, and I also grew up in a predominantly white area. So growing up, I was always surrounded by, Pink Floyd, AC/DC, and Fleetwood Mac, and all these amazing bands and artists. But it was sort of like this thing where I was always looked at by the white kids like, oh, like you don't deserve to be here. But then when I was with my black friends, it was just like, oh, you listen to that white people shit. Like, you know what I'm saying? So it was quite literally like too black for the white kids, too white for the black kids situation. And it was just so frustrating because, when you grow older and you realize the history of music, we were the ones who created rock and roll. And it evolved, and so it is so crazy, and it was extremely painful to learn that. And when you try to educate your black friends on that, it's just they're kind of so lost in the sauce, and they're already embedded into the hip hop and jazz culture. So some people are really open minded about it, and they realize like music is music, and we appreciate the history that it comes from, and anybody could listen to AC/DC, but then go listen to Kendrick Lamar like right after, and so as a musician myself, my biggest inspiration, my role models are Daft Punk. And so, growing up listening to house music and techno music and EDM, I would listen to Daft Punk, and my sisters would be like, oh, there he goes listening to that white people shit again. And then, you look at the history of house music and techno music, black people created that as well. So and it's mind-blowing. It's really mind-blowing. So, like, you really feel like you don't belong. So, like, I kind of, like, with making music, you kind of just, like, create your own world where you do belong. Like, this is my world. I set the rules and stuff like that. So, with that being said, what are some rules that you set for yourself when you create your world?
I really only have two rules, and it's one is it's got to be cool. It's got to be dope.
Yeah.
And the second is just it needs to be honest, and that doesn't mean I can't embellish or, take creative license, but that's kind of the only boundaries I try to put on it. I think earlier in like my, artist career as an artist, I would put these weird constraints on like my music and my art, and a lot of times those came out of insecurity. So like when I first signed to No ID, I was like on a run of like I'm making music with no 808s. I don't believe in 808s right now. You know what I'm saying? I'm just like 808s are low brow. Nah, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I love trap music.
Yeah.
It's just like
very 808 heavy.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm just like but I'm too much of an artist to like to do that. And he had pointed out that hypocrisy. He's like, you literally love this music. Why are you not doing it? And then I realized, oh, it's because you don't feel like you can use 808s as good as these other artists who do that, or you feel like you can't make music in that genre that's dope, so you're just choosing to reject it and then say, well, it's because I'm this, and like that's not true.
That's very powerful. That's very powerful.
Yeah.
So moving on to the next question, which is I'm actually very invested into this question because I do believe location is everything, So where were some places that you recorded the album, and how has the location affect your songwriting process and stuff like that?
Yeah, so I'm trying to think of like the final version. So most of this project was recorded here in Austin after I came home, at my parents' house, in my bedroom, like my childhood bedroom, like the closet.
That's crazy.
So, yeah. And I mean, I think it's just the most comfortable place in the world for me to record. You know what I'm saying? It's just like no pressure. There's no people like trying to hear what I'm doing. It's just my family. A lot of times they're gone at work or whatever. So yeah, and then I'm just surrounded by all of my like influences and little things that just make me feel comfortable as a person. So I don't even think about how like sounding weird or trying
Yeah.
some idea because it's just like you're in your bedroom.
Yeah, you're in your
Who
comfort spot,
cares?
you know?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I guess part two of this question, since we're on location, you're from Austin, Texas. How
Yep.
has being from Austin affected your music?
Yep.
Because I know Austin is very culture heavy. The food is amazing there. I've never been to Texas, but I've
Mm.
heard nothing but good things about Texas barbecue. Music is really good. So tell me, how has the culture of being born and raised in Austin, Texas, influenced your music?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, for one, it is in a lot of ways a melting pot of a lot of different cultures. And it being the live music capital,
True.
that
True.
is like one of the biggest influences of like, it's the South, so you have the Southern influences. You've got Houston, a few hours away, so you're influenced by that culture. Live music, I love live music, so I'm just surrounded by talented musicians everywhere. That influences my music. And then just Austin's motto, keep Austin weird. So it
Yeah.
also just allows us creative freedom to like be whatever. Because I think Austin, especially in rap, there's no identity right now. Like there's
Mm.
not like in the way that like when Drake started to pull things back to Toronto, like that had like Toronto has a identity now.
Okay. Yeah.
So
Okay. I see what you're saying.
there's a pathway of like if you make this kind of moody, mellow, trap R&B ish, that you kind of fit into what's going on. Austin, there's none of that. It's just everyone's doing everything
Hmm.
for the most part, especially in rap. So there's no pressure for me to feel like I need to fall into this pocket to be accepted or not, you know.
Okay.
So yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
that's awesome. This next question, this is where I'm gonna pull out my notes because when I say your resume is stacked, bro, your resume is stacked. We're gonna be talking about the featured artists on this album. Am I
Okay.
allowed to say the featured artists on this album?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Cool. So Malik Baptiste, a Grammy Award-winning artist, music producer, rapper, songwriter, worked with artists such as Ariana Grande, Snow Allegra, Tommy Gold is his name, JID and Earth Gang, Leon Thomas, Saba, Fifi, and his new album Petals being narrated by Don Cannon. He is also introduced to the world on Apple Music One Radio by Ebro himself. Now, I guess this is another two-parter question.
Okay.
With me listing all your credentials and all your successes back at you, how does that make you feel? Because there has been an ongoing conversation about actors going through like this imposter syndrome
Mhm.
when they're starring in a huge movie. So what goes through your mind? How do you feel mentally and emotionally when you look back at your successes?
Yeah, I mean, I think imposter syndrome is 100% one thing that comes to mind because I remember when I'd done the Ariana stuff, I had felt like, oh, but you're not a real producer. And I was
Mm.
like, why? Like, why? Like,
Like you just worked with Ariana Grande,
that's what I'm
like
saying.
you know.
That's what I'm saying. When it's like, oh, well, it's only a couple songs, or you haven't done this, or you haven't done that. And I'm like, oh, okay. This is an internal problem. This is not like
Yeah.
something external that's going to give me that validation. So I think when I look through that, it is this battle of like, this is dope. I'm really proud of this. There's a side of me that's like, but it doesn't mean anything,
Hmm.
for better or for worse. Where it's like
Right.
I'm an artist and my art is valid simply because I said it is.
Hmm.
Um, and I definitely struggled with, okay, do I need these names to like make me feel validated?
Right.
And can you lean into them to help? It's like
Yeah.
this weird struggle where I'm trying to learn how to, you know, plant my flag as an artist, just me, but then also knowing like part of being an artist is collaborating and working with other people and learning and being comfortable with that. It's just knowing how to do that in a way that is healthy and respectful. And that's been a journey for me because artists are artists and everybody's different. Artists are sensitive. We're sensitive, we
100%.
have weird quirks and
yeah
and things, and you don't want to rub people the wrong way. So I've been learning how to navigate that as well. But I think at the end of the day, I'm proud. I'm proud of that. I'm definitely proud of that.
And there's sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say it doesn't define who I am, but I'm 100% proud of the things that I've done.
And I think there's a sense of this superpower with coming with being proud of your work, because I have many conversations about music with friends, some who are music lovers like me, some who are just casual listeners, and some who just don't even listen to music at all, to be honest with you. And so, amongst the conversations that we had, I always kind of like gathered this question, like, what's the point of doing what you do if you're not going to be proud of it?
Yeah.
And it's not even at the end of the day. Other people liking it is a part of it because it comes with the territory. Like, you could put out a personal project that's not meant for people, but people enjoy it, so like that's cool. But at the end of the day, like, if you're not proud of what you do and what you make, at the end it low-key is just a waste of your time. And it's you're putting all that hard work and that creativity into something for it to be a waste of time. That would just be very heartbreaking. So that is definitely a really big factor. So leading on to part 2, what was the process like working with these artists on this new album? I know you have Leon Thomas, one of my favorite artists. When I saw that name, I was just like, whoa. I was just like, this is going to be good. And then obviously it was good. So have you met these artists in person, or was it like sending music back and forth to each other? What was the process like?
Yeah, so every artist from the project, we've met, in person at one point or another. Most of the stuff was recorded and sent though.
Okay.
Yeah, man, it was fun. So the first song I'd done for the project was All You Need to Know. And Sano had like given me the hook, basically. The hook, and it had like some keys underneath it. She was like, "Here, like, make something with it, maybe beat that you give another artist, whatever." Like, she just kind of just gave it to me offhanded. And I forgot about it. Like, I tried some ideas and nothing really came of it. So it was kind of just sitting on my hard drive. So when I went into starting the project, I'm making beats. And No ID had like taught me this, or like showed me this new piece of software that I was trying out. I ended up making some drums that were like super crazy.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, like, what should I put on this?" And I remembered I had the Snow stuff. So I'm like, just for fun, let me put it on there. And it was like, it was really dope.
Yeah.
So I went ahead and put 2 verses down. And then I was like, okay, I have to send this to Snow, and I really hope she likes it. I hope she's not upset that I just rapped on this. So I sent it to her, and she loved it. She had called me and she was like, "Yo, like, I really love this. Can I like add some other pieces to it?" And like, that was the most validating thing in the world, because she doesn't do a lot of features. She's very selective in who she works with.
And even on her albums, there's very few features. Like at most, like what, 3, 4 maybe, something like that. So that's really cool. And the fact that, since we were talking about the imposter syndromes thing in the last question, that's really cool to hear, because you say sometimes, like, it's like, I'm not important because I worked with these artists, but here, this amazing artist such as Snow Allegra is telling you that the work that you've done is really good.
Yeah.
And so that must have been a great feeling. So, and definitely. What about Saba? He's an amazing rapper, so what was that like? I could only imagine the energy, because the song you guys made together, Blessings, it's called, with Saba. That's also like gives me like a gospel fueled, inspired vibes. So the energy must have been unmatched. So tell me about that.
That was fun. So I've known him for a few years, just him coming to the studio. He's cool with No ID. So, we've had a handful of conversations over the last few years. And then we ended up reconnecting at like some some like Grammy event or something.
Okay.
Right. And he just happened to be there, and we ended up just talking for like hour and a half, 2 hours straight.
Mm-hmm.
And we kind of ended like, yo, we need to like make something, you know?
Yeah.
So after that, I'd come home. I'm just kind of casually working on music. And then I made that beat, put down that verse. I'm like, yo, this is kind of crazy. But I only had a verse. I had the hook. And I was like, you know what? Let me just send it to Saba. Let me
Okay.
see what he thinks. He might like this. Said he loved it. He did the verse. Obviously, the verse is crazy. And
Yeah.
then it just, it was that simple. It was that easy.
Nice. Nice.
Um, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Now, well, technically, three-part question. I didn't realize I made this into a separate question. Were you nervous getting into contact with the collaborators on this album? I know you spoke about Snow Allegra and Saba. Those seemed like very natural interactions. But were there
Yeah.
other artists that you've worked with where you felt nervous going into working with them?
Um, for this project, I mean, probably the most nervous I was Snow, just because
Mm,
it was just like, you know,
yeah.
um, it wasn't meant to be a collaboration from the jump. And it was more of me
Oh,
kind of taking initiative. And I was like, hey, do you like this? Could we use this? As
got
opposed to
you.
like, going to Saba and asking like, hey, will you want to be on the song? And Leon Thomas, actually, I played him the song and he was like, yo, can I get on this?
Oh,
Um,
wow.
yeah.
That's so
And
cool.
that was really dope. That was really, really dope. Because I had no motive to try to get him on something or something.
Yeah,
But
it was just like a friend to friend conversation. Like, let me show you what I got.
yeah. And I was like, hell yeah,
Yeah, you're
please.
not gonna say no to Leon Thomas. Like,
That's what I'm
come on
saying.
now.
Yeah. Crazy talented, crazy
Yeah.
talented. So yeah, most like the features on this project really, really came naturally. And then No ID is really close with Cannon. So he was the one, No ID had brought the that opportunity to the table
Okay.
for me. So everything kind of just
It was
it,
very
it
natural for the most part, right?
absolutely.
Nice.
Absolutely.
I that's actually really awesome to hear because there's a lot of music you hear, especially with like mainstream music. You can tell that it's like very transactional, and there's really
Yeah.
like not that much of a connection between the two art. They may have made a connection after they made the song and like filmed the music video. You never know. But when
Right.
I hear stories like the ones you're telling me right now, it just makes me feel like there is hope that the music is the music community is not as transactional as it may seem. And so, with that being said, moving on to the next topic, I know you said you moved to LA and then came back home. So
Yeah.
now, my question is, when was the moment you realized you wanted to make an album? And when was the moment you realized, like, oh, okay, I think we have an album on our hands?
So it had come. So I put out Spectrum, and this pro- this project had actually started. Oh, all good.
That was my phone ringing. Sorry.
All good, all good. So yeah, yeah, I put out Spectrum, and the whole idea was let's do a Spectrum Deluxe. So I was gonna
mm.
either do different versions of the colors, do remixes, add features, um, and that kind of just got me into working on, an additional maybe a Spectrum 2, but really just wanted to stay consistent.
Okay.
And after I started making music, I was like, you know what, this is actually sounded like it's about to just be a new project. So let's make it a new project.
Okay.
And then that's when it took on the Starbirth Life.
Got you. Got you.
And then I'd worked on that for like a year and a half. And then, in the
Okay.
last few
So,
months, it became Petals.
Spectrum came out 2020.
2021?
Okay.
2020? 2020. Yes. 2020, I
2020.
believe.
Okay. So
Yeah,
then
yeah.
you started working on the new music a year after that, or around
Uh, I
there.
I would say late 2020.
Oh, okay. Okay. Got you.
Yeah,
Got you.
yeah,
All
yeah.
right. Cool. Now, where? So I know a lot of artists. They make tons of music at a time, and they'll make like 100 songs, narrow it down to like 50, then narrow it down to 20, and then they decide on like the 12 to 14 songs they want to put on the album. How
Yeah.
many songs did you make, or an estimate? How many songs did you make specifically for Petals, or was it just something like you were just making music? As you said, you just wanted to piggyback off of Spectrum. So, Was it a good chunk? Was it a little bit, or was it very concise? Walk me through that.
So for me, when I go into projects, for the most part, I know what I want to say. So I don't make 100 songs and then narrow it down. A lot of times it might be 100 ideas, like beat ideas and like different versions of hooks and stuff. Because I'll make like, okay, for example, All You Need to Know. There's probably like 6 or 7 different complete versions of that song with different verses, different vocal delivery, subtle changes to like production and stuff. And it's more of me honing in on like what's the right way to say this, because I knew All You Need to Know was like something I needed to say. So I would say 2025, but then when it became Petals after Starbirth, it was like seven new songs, and it was like those 7. There was nothing extra that didn't make it. It was just like,
got you.
I knew what I needed to express.
That's actually very cool, because a lot of artists do that thing where they make like 500, 600 songs because they're just constantly in the studio, and then they find themselves like, stuck in this place, and it's very difficult for them to pick the songs because they mainly like, they like a lot of the songs that they make. So that's very interesting to hear, because it felt like you were really organized with this project.
Yeah, I just don't have 500 meaningful things to say.
You know what? That's a fair point. That's actually a fair point. Now, on to the next question. When was the moment you realized you completed the album? Now, I know you said the original version you sent to the record label, and then after a while you changed it and sent in the new one. So I guess since we're on the topic of Petals, when was the moment you realized the newer version of Petals was completed?
Yeah, it was when I didn't have anything else to say. So I had done Thank You. I had done what's the other one that I'm thinking of? Never Going Home Again. And those were like 2 songs that like were not possible for me to write at any other time in my life. And then I would say Petals as well. That were I'm showing you how I've grown since the beginning of this project to now, and like gratitude and understanding the mind frame that I was in during the Starbirth period, and telling you the story. Like I'm literally giving you from when I left home to now. So there's nothing else for me to tell you. Like this is everything that's happened for the most. Only thing I could do is give you more details, but it would get redundant at a certain point.
Fair.
But yeah, and then once I listened to the whole project, and I'm like, okay, yeah, this tells the whole story. It's done.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Now, this next question is actually very interesting. But how do you think people are going to perceive the album? But alongside that, how do you want people to perceive the album?
I think people, and this is kind of just based off experience, people are gonna love the production, because people love my production. Yeah, it's very good.
that's always a plus.
Absolutely, and I think people are gonna connect to the vulnerability.
Oh, okay.
That's what I believe people will pull from it, because I'm saying things that I'm like embarrassed about. You know what I'm saying? Like, absolutely, like things that I'm like, I'm not proud that this happened, but I'm proud of being strong enough to say that it did.
You know what? That's very powerful. I like that. I really like that. Now, how do you want the people to perceive it? Or is that already like the answer to the question, like?
Yeah. I mean, I think I just want people to see a complete human. Like, I don't want to be... I don't want to be a superhero in the fact that like, oh, you can't do what I do, but more of a hero in the fact that like, oh, he's showing me how I can be more of me too. You know what I'm saying? And then I just want people to get enjoyment and get a lot out of the music, whether that's just...
Oh, they're going to enjoy it. No, when I tell you, I was just like, you know what? Before I listen to the album, I'm going to record my reaction, just like live reaction. I had a blast, like from start to finish. I promise you, people are gonna enjoy it. Like I was by myself. I was here in my room, just like vibing out. It was just a random day. I just finished filming content for TikTok, and I was just like, this is a great day for me to just listen to some music. And then you, ironically enough, you hit me up. I was just like, oh, okay, cool. I'm gonna listen to this album while I edit some, YouTube videos. Literally after the first song, I was just like, nah, I gotta get locked in, bro. I was like, nah, I gotta get locked in. So I stopped editing, and I was like, you know what, let me record my reaction, because I know this album's gonna be crazy. So I enjoyed it to the max, and I know everybody else is gonna enjoy it. So you have nothing to worry about that when it comes to that department.
Thank you, man. Thank you. That means a lot. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
So coming towards the end of the conversation, what is your favorite song you made on this album, and what is your least favorite song that you made on this album?
Ooh, okay. I'm gonna start with. Let me start with least favorite.
Okay.
Least favorite might be. You might be upset about this. Something in the Pavement.
Bro, no way.
And I will say it for this.
Okay.
I love the song, right? It is the most painful song when I listen to it. So that might be the it's difficult because I'm acknowledging pain that like my family has gone through, my fears, some of my darkest like thoughts, like I'm thinking about like dying, like not making it, and seeing my lack of success like leading to my death, which is just not you know what I'm saying? It taps into just the general sense of what it means to be Black and successful, and the root that we have, and how difficult it is. And it just leads to me thinking like, man, like obviously there's nothing wrong with working hard, and we need to work hard.
Yeah.
But to survive, should it be this difficult?
That's been a very prevalent conversation with the whole boomers versus millennial war going on right now. That's been a very prevalent conversation. Because I'm not gonna lie to you, I have a really rocky relationship with my father. So, and when I was younger, it was very easy for me to be like, oh, I hate you. You know what I'm saying? Now, it's just like, okay, I do love you, but I just need to remove myself from this relationship, only because whenever hold on, it's doing it again. Whenever I have, but we'll finish by the time the timer is up. But whenever we have conversations, immediately it's just like that disconnect between the boomer versus millennial. So it's like now like going through like this self-healing journey, it's just like I don't get angry no more. It's just remove myself, So I'm so glad you mentioned that, because when I talk to my peers and even having this conversation today, I realize I'm not the only one who goes through it. So that's insane that we're all like collectively going through some similar struggles.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's not easy. That's actually crazy, because Something in the Pavement is my favorite song, not because I'm like glorifying your pain, but it was more like I'm more drawn to songs that are that vulnerable, because it allows me to, I don't know, because sometimes when I'm feeling vulnerable, I can't really express it that way. So I kind of use other avenues such as movies, music to like, help me process what I'm going through, because if I watch a movie and I see a character who's going through, similar things, I'm just like, okay, this is like a great way for me to cope. So when I heard that song, I realized the pain, and I was just like, okay, I'm not going through the same situations as Malik, but I am going through my own situations, but the pain is still there.
It's relatable,
It's very relatable. I always tell people, we all go through different things, but we all have the same emotions. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I don't go through the same things that you went through, but I go through the same emotions that you go through. So once I, felt that pain in that song, I was just like, wow, like this perfectly encapsulates like exactly how I feel, and I'm drawn to that, which is one of the main reasons why I love The Weeknd, because he's super, you know, vulnerable. He's also another one of my role models. You know, there's like this ongoing like insider that like he hates Kissland album. Yeah, I didn't know that know this. It was like a conversation on like Reddit and Tumblr about how he doesn't really like Kissland, but like I love Kissland, bro. And just like lyrically, I think he was on top, and I think because he was just extremely vulnerable, you know, and talking about his pain, you know, with, you know, women and the drugs and stuff. So like I'm more drawn to those types of songs. So
absolutely,
yeah, it's really cool to hear you say that, because it's really hard, and that's one of the main reasons why I respect you as an artist, because even when I listened to Spectrum, you were still being vulnerable. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, you know, and listening to your music now, it's just like, man, this dude has been authentic. He's been real. He's been honest since day one, and he has not, you know, and he has not changed it up, and that's why I, you know, respect you so much.
Thank you, man.
And so I guess like next thing I want to talk about, I think we could make it in 6 minutes and 40 seconds, but lyrically, I know with rappers, they talk about the moments before the fame, and they talk about moments, you know, after the fame, you know, the accolades, the benefits of being famous and just having money or just being respected. But lyrically, I've noticed, correct me if I'm wrong, obviously, but lyrically, I've noticed with you talk about the moments in between, like the struggle of getting to the point that you want to go to, the struggle of, you know, leaving home, and even the struggle of making the decision to come back home. And I think even beginning when we started talking, it's a really big reflection of that. So tell me about, you know, how you structure your lyrics.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I decided that this was going to be a project, I needed to figure out what the narrative was going to be, because I'm really only interested in telling stories. So, you know, Starbirth, like I said before, it was like, okay, I left home. I had my music before I left home that I had written about my life or whatever I was going through at the time. And then I left, and then I didn't really tell people what was going on. You know, I kind of just left quietly. So I'm like, oh, what a great opportunity for me to get people up to speed, which is what the whole All You Need to Know song is about. It's like, hey y'all, this is like my first message I'm sending home, so y'all know what I've been up to, and I'm signed to No ID now, and I'm working with Snow.
That's
and,
such a beautiful thing. That's such a beautiful thing, because it's one thing to, you know, go home and just be completely disconnected and be like, you know, I'm here now, so I'm gonna just stay here, you know. But the fact that with that song, it's sort of like you weren't disconnected, you know, you had love for that place, and in a way, like, you revisited that place through this song, you know, and you wanted the world to see it, and it was such a beautiful thing. But before we run out of time, my last question, very very out of pocket question. I always like to, you know, lighten the mood with just like an out of pocket question. What is your favorite go-to snack when you're working in the studio?
Ooh, man. So what immediately comes to mind is salt and vinegar kettle potato chips.
Ooh.
Come on.
Bro, you hit the spot with that one. You hit the spot with me personally. I like the barbecue flavored one.
Okay.
But salt and vinegar. My older sister loves salt and vinegar chips.
Yeah.
Like, no matter what the brand is. Oh my god. She's obsessed with it. So like anyways, it's about to end in 3 minutes 45. But guys, we've had an amazing conversation. Malik, thank you so much again for taking the time out of your day to come speak with me. Thank you so much for letting me listen to the album early. So to anybody listening, watching, make sure you tune in on all streaming platforms. Petals is dropping September 14th, 2023. 15th. September 15th. 2023. Make sure you tune in. I promise you're not going to want to miss it, especially if you want to listen to something that is brand new and you're tired of listening to the same that you've been listening to, because I know people have been listening to the same you know, I've been listening to the same to be honest with you. I love Travis Scott's Utopia album, but again, it's in the same realm of the same shit I've been listening to. No disrespect to Travis. I love Travis. I'm actually a huge fan. I have his poster up on my wall right here. But anyway, before the ADHD kicks in, everybody go show some love to my man Malik Baptiste, Grammy Award winning artist. His new album Petals is coming out September 15th. You're not going to want to miss it. So much love to Malik. Much love to the fans, and thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to come talk to me. This has been great. I've had so much fun. I hope, next album, I hope we can have another interview, maybe.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right, cool.
I'm with it.
But again, Malik, you enjoy the out of the rest of your day, man. I hope all is well for you. And honestly, I'm actually glad that we connected right now because I know your career is just going to skyrocket, So,
thank you.
In the near future, it's nothing but up from here, my man. So I'm actually glad. I'm excited because it feels like I'm a part of something that's huge. Especially with both of us being the same age. It's just like, you know, it's like we need each other now more than ever. So
absolutely.
Me showing support to this album, it's not just something be like, oh, I want to say I know Malik, like when he's fading. Like, no, it's nothing like that. It's just more of like, especially us as young black men, we really need each other now more than ever. So I'm actually glad you invited me to listen to this album early because I'm gonna do everything in my power to promote the out of this album. So
thank you.
No problem, man. It was good talking to you. This is our first time talking to anybody listening, watching. This is our first time talking, and I've had an amazing time. I was actually nervous the days leading up, but after the first couple of questions, I was just like, nah, this is the homie right here.
Yeah, facts. Let's go.
But 60 seconds left. Anything else you have to say for the people?
No, I mean, that's it, really. Thank you so much for having me.
No,
I'm happy that you were receptive to talking and the music, the whole thing. So yeah, this has been an amazing experience, and awesome. I love.
I'm glad I can make it a good experience for you. I'm a people pleaser, so like that's why I asked for your email. I gave you the questions, and I try to make it organized. But guys, thank you so much for watching. Make sure you drink your water, take your vitamins, get some rest. Peace, love, happiness, and positivity, guys. I love y'all. And Malik, thank you so much for contact. I'm gonna hit you up on Instagram like literally right after this. So thank you so much. All right, I'm gonna end the call right now.
Sound.
I cannot believe you really got me wild. I cannot believe this bit you know I'm styling. I cannot believe you got me smiling. I cannot believe that you don't know who I am.
Do you really think you a star? That's what you meanin'. Let me get a taste what you got, yeah, what you eatin'. I think that you take it too far. Get off my penis.